Okay, so I kind of wanted to talk about artist experimental eras. What was the best one in you guys' opinions? Some ones that got good acclaim, some ones that didn't, and we can kind of have that conversation. So I put up a bunch of ones and everything like that. I might be missing one or two, but we have the Someone's Ugly Daughter album. So this is something that Mariah Carey did, and this was during the Daydream era and everything like that. She kind of just needed a release and everything. I still haven't heard this one because I'm waiting for her to put the version with the vocals out because she said that she found it and everything like that. The people that have heard it like it and everything is different for her because it's more of an alternative rock kind of moment, and she more so does pop R&B songs. So that was her alternative era and everything like that. And so yeah, she couldn't put her name on it at the time and everything because it was such a contrast to her image. The label didn't want that and everything. So yeah, she just had some background vocals on it and she got one of her friends to sing it. Lady Gaga Art Pop. No, this one was divisive. This one was divisive. She caught a lot of backlash for it. I read something that she said she doesn't even remember doing this album. So yeah, okay, it tends to be more so of a fan favorite and everything like that. You had Applause, you had Guy, a lot of people like Jules and Drugs. I personally don't really go for that song, okay? But yeah, this was Lady Gaga really going out of the box, doing something different sonically and all those other things. And I can appreciate it in that respect because you don't want an artist to become a one-trick pony, constantly making the same archetype of music in that way. So for her to break out and be like, look, I want to do something different, you can respect it in that sense. I have to give it a re-listen because the first time I heard it, it was very overwhelming and everything like that. I didn't hate it though, okay? And yeah, after the backlash, she did that album with Tony Bennett. I think it was called Cheek to Cheek. And, the Joanne moment, which Joanne, that was not a good album, okay? I think we can agree. I hate Perfect Illusion. Million Reasons carried. It really did, but yeah, it's very divisive, but I can appreciate it. That Applause video and Applause itself, it holds up for me. That should have been number one, okay? We got Miley Cyrus, Miley and Her Dead Pets. Now, this album is a train wreck, okay? One of my friends and I listened to this album, and I only liked one song. I think it's called Space Boots. This album was just so bad. It was just so bad in so many different ways. You listen to it, and you're just like, what the hell was she doing, okay? And I think she was high during it, which explains some of it, but it was just so bad. It has a song though, What Does It Mean song on here as well. But yeah, vocal performances, writing, productions, I'm just like, girl, come on, like this is just not it at all and everything like that. And Miley Cyrus is a very streaky artist for me. She either really hits or she doesn't, okay? And so yeah, she did Younger Now after this, which Younger Now was mid as fuck, if we're being honest. That EP was mid besides 2 or 3 songs like Slide Away, for example. She did Plastic Hearts, which I think is her best album. I think her going in that rock lane was really enjoyable to listen to. So Plastic Hearts is probably her best album, to me at least. Endless Summer Vacation was a mixed bag for me, and then the new album, Something Beautiful, is coming out in a few months. So I'll give a review when that comes out. But yeah, I'm not fond of this moment, okay? Beyonce self-titled. Yeah, this was probably the most well-received of this bunch. I think it's decent for what it is. Like I said, Renaissance to me is what self-titled is to you guys. I don't think it's a bad album. It's just I don't really go up for it the way that everyone else does. But she had hits on here. She had Drunk in Love on this album, 7-Eleven. That was like on the extended cut and everything like that. But you had that. You had Flawless as well. Mine, a lot of people love that. I'm kind of tired of that song for the moment. I've been tired of that song. But I also love stuff like Blow. Blow is such a good song. Blow is such a good song. Okay, Rocket. I enjoy that one a lot. Jealous. Like, this was a surprise release, okay? Like, she put the album out and everyone found out, like, looking on iTunes and all that other stuff, okay? Like, a real surprise release. So, it being a surprise release, and I think it did, 800K first week or something like that. Like, this was a huge album and everything like that. And she did so many cool things on here. No Angel, I forgot to mention that song on it. Like, these are fan favorites as well. So, just the way that she was pushing everything production wise, and shout out to the producers that she worked with, songwriters, all those things, like vocally, it was just different for her, okay? Especially when you have 4 right before this album, okay? And that was very R&B kind of throwback vibe. So self-titled, it was really different for her, okay? And you see that she continues to push with albums like Renaissance and Cowboy Carter, trying different genres, trying different sounds and everything like that. And Beyonce was like, you guys are not going to box me in. I'm going to try something different. And a lot of people want Beyonce to go back to the R&B sounds of yesteryear that she was doing on Dangerously in Love, Beat, and all these other things. Go listen to the albums then, okay? Because, this was a very important album for not just Beyonce, but for the culture at large, okay? So what she did with this album, it was a stamp. It was a stamp. So you got to give some respect there. Of course, Partition was a great song on this album too. and I got Lord Solar Power. I mean, for her, this was a different album. The first album was more so an alternative kind of moment. And then when we got to Melodrama, she was fully in her pop bag. Whenever Green Light was a lead single, I like Liability Reprise. Supercut, I thought was a really fun song off the album. So, that did pretty well for her. It's probably still her best album. And then this one, yeah, it was just more guitars and everything like that, more of a laid back album. Solar Power, the song, like, I remember that came out and she got so much hell for the song in this album. I made a whole video talking about how she had generational hate for this album. The Lord subreddit, if you were on the Lord subreddit during 2021 when this album came out, then you know. I read a post every day about how people did not fuck with the album. Someone said I went to see her perform it live for It to Grow Me and I still hate the album. Like, one of her friends basically told her the album wasn't shit and just saying like, hey, you have your peak eras and your flop eras, something like that. Okay, so a bunch of people were telling her like, hey, we don't really fuck with this album. Okay, I think this was like number 2 debuting on Billboard 200 whenever it came out and everything like that. But the critical acclaim, the backlash from fans, yeah. And the thing is, I thought this was going to be her best album. I did, because I like Solar Power, okay, and I like Stoned Down the Nail Salon. I like the singles that she released before, but then the actual album came out, and I enjoyed it and everything like that, but I had to admit, like, yeah, this isn't her best album. Melodrama probably takes a cake. I mean, objectively, it's probably her worst album, but I actually did enjoy this album, okay? Other experimental albums for artists and kind of eras and everything like that, I would definitely have to give it to Ariana Grande's Sweetener album. Now, this album was different for her. It was like more of a lighter pop kind of moment and everything like that. I just think it was different from what she released before. And I said this, but her career would not be the same had she not released Sweetener. I heavily believe that. No Tears Left to Cry, as a lead single, I think it was such a palate cleanser moment. Okay, Good Night and Go is a really good song. Get Well Soon is a favorite for me. The vocal layering, mastering out Pro Tools is crazy, okay? Absolutely love Rem as well. That's like my favorite song on the entire album. Every Time was really good too. Like, just the whole era, the aesthetics, like, it was giving. And she cut it short because she wanted to do Thank You Next. But I think that Sweetener was a much needed palate cleanser for the time, especially for Ariana's career and everything. And it's whenever she starts doing her album covers in color. You notice, because the first 3 is just black and white and everything like that. And I just think it's aged probably the best out of all her albums and everything, like, production-wise. I really enjoyed it. Okay, The Light Is Coming, Blaze, those songs sucks. I always say that. I do not like those songs. I start from track 1, I go to track 4, and then I finish the album every single time. But, yeah, this was a really good album and era, so I would definitely have to give some love to that. You could say what Taylor Swift was doing with the Folklore album as well, okay, because that was her going into a more alternative route. The One, Cardigan, Lasker, and American Dynasty. I always say those 3 starting off the album is crazy, okay? Invisible String was crazy. I love The Lakes. That's definitely favorite. August, I still really have an affinity for that song as well, so you got to give some appreciation for what she did there. In a sense, you could say 1989, it was kind of different for her in a sense, she was going full on pop after kind of straddling the pop and country moment with Red, okay? So it was different for her in that way and everything. 1989 was when I got into Taylor Swift, but you had Style, Blank Space, I Know Places, Wildest Dreams, etc. So yeah, these are just some notable experimental eras by artists and everything like that. It doesn't always go over well. I think it has to do with the execution of the era and everything, making the music that's right for them and something that kind of feels authentic in that sense. So, you can talk about that and everything, and a lot of people think experimental in so many ways. You can think about the way that they're doing their vocals, you can do the production, you can do the whole imaging and everything like that. And yeah, this is kind of what I landed on. So I would love to know, what are, your favorite experimental eras by artists? What are eras that artists did that were more so experimental that you're like, I'm just not fucking with this? Katy Perry, Witness kind of comes to mind. She said she wanted to do purposeful pop. A lot of people weren't fucking with it. I've never heard the album, okay, but every time people talk about a flop era, they bring that album up. She's never recovered from that to this day. But let me know what you think of these down below and all that, and we can continue that conversation.